Good afternoon, Jackson County Schools, employees and teachers, and anyone who will take just a few minutes to listen to some information that Mr. Hitzkus and I would like to share. First of all, I want to thank you for a great first 9 weeks. I also hope that every single one of you took some time over the last 4-day weekend to spend some fun family time and enjoy the beautiful weather. You've probably read either in the newspaper or on our website that we continue to face some pretty significant financial challenges. And Mr. Hitzkus and I want you to know that one of our biggest priorities this year is to be absolutely transparent in our communications. So we elected to do a short video clip to hopefully provide you some of the most current information that we have related to our present status with our budget process. Right now, we are looking into our budget allocation for next year, and we need for you to know that while we had an approved budget in June, that budget was based on what we expected to be a flat and potential slight increase in local taxes. Well, if you've kept up at all, you know that our Mr. Elrod, who is our tax commissioner, informed us a couple of weeks ago that we're going to see another significant decrease in our tax digest. So in a brave move, our Board of Education supported us in a very slight increase in the millage rate. We're going from 18.9 to 19.26, and what this simply does is to reduce the amount of loss. So we were slated at 18.9 to lose about $1.9 million this year alone in our local tax digest. With the slight increase to our millage rate, that is now going to be a $1.4 million loss. With all of that being said, what you obviously realize is that we're in a place, once again, that we have to look at how we can reduce our budget. We've already done a significant amount, and our hope is that you will understand that our goal is to build a fund balance. From FY13 to FY14, in other words, last year to this year, we've already made a significant gain in terms of our budget reduction. From last year's expenditures to this year, we've already reduced about $4.1 million. We did that, as you know, through personnel reduction. We reduced approximately 50 positions. The impact of that, as you experience on a daily basis, is increased class sizes. We have had a reduction, unfortunately, in our technology support. We've reduced our parapros in kindergarten, and we've reduced district leadership significantly. In addition to that, we've all experienced calendar reduction days, so you know when you received your paycheck in September that our teachers had a 10-day calendar reduction. Our leadership at the district level have anywhere from 13 to 15 days deducted from their actual contract. So that ranges from 5 to 6.25% overall pay reduction for teachers and for leaders. In addition to that, you know that we consolidated our middle schools on the east side, so our existing Kingsbridge facility is being used for South Jackson Elementary School. That means that we're operating one less school, and in addition to that, we have closed Gordon Street Center. We're presently in negotiations and hope that we can work with Lanier Tech and potentially other local colleges and post-secondary opportunities for our high school students, and that's a hope. But in terms of operating expenditures, we've reduced the use of South Jackson Elementary School as well as Gordon Street Center, so that was an effort to reduce our expenditures as well. So with that being said, as I said, we've reduced about $4.1 million to this point. However, going into next year, Mr. Hitzkus will talk to you a little bit more in depthly about our actual budget numbers, but we will hopefully end the year with about $1 million in our fund balance. That's very hopeful. It probably realistically will look more like about $750,000. That's frighteningly low, and so we realize our professional obligation to increase our fund balance. A district our size should have approximately $8 to $12 million as a fund balance. So when we get down to about $750,000, we know that we have to take some pretty drastic measures. Going into next year, I want you to know that we've already begun the planning stages. We've met with a variety of stakeholder groups, both parents' involvement, business leader involvement, our teacher advisory councils have been involved, district leadership, principal leadership, anyone who has been available to meet with us. We've had several stakeholder involvement meetings. And moving forward, we're going to have to take some pretty significant measures in terms of meeting our budget, and hopefully creating at least a $6 million reduction, creating a $3 million fund balance. So $6 million is a lot of money to cut out of what is about a $65 million budget. That's about a 10% cut. We've got to look carefully at what those areas are. We're going to do everything in our power to carefully analyze every single penny, from the amount of fuel that we use in our buses to the amount of substitutes. Every single thing that we can possibly look at, we're going to look at with the hopes of protecting the classroom environment, because we know that's the most important place. A couple of the strategies that we're presently looking at, none of these are definitive, but they are certainly there's certainly considerations that we're looking at. Our high schools are exploring the migration from a block schedule to a 7-period day, which over time has a significant savings potential of 15 to 20%. We may reach a point going into next year that we have to enact a RIF. We actually have to do a reduction in force. We're looking very carefully at our FTE, which takes place, as you know, in October, and based on our FTE and our earnings, we may end up having to reduce some positions. We're looking at hopefully reducing the calendar reduction days from 10 down to 8, as well as some other things like limiting field trip expenditures and sharing bookkeepers among our schools. Anything that we can do through attrition and as people leave to save the district some funds so that we can protect the student teacher classroom environment, that's what we're going to look at. So I want you to know that while these are challenging times, Jackson County is not alone. This is a statewide issue that many districts are facing, and the most important thing that I could ask of you is that you keep this as in perspective, and that you realize while many of us are being impacted by these challenges, there are also opportunities for us to look for innovative ways to do things differently. The reality is we cannot continue to do things the exact same way we used to do them with approximately 1/3 less support in terms of resources. So it is an opportunity for us to think creatively, look for new innovative solutions, and at the same time probably get better in the process. So Mr. Hitzkes has greater detail that he wants to share with you in terms of what we are really looking at from a budget perspective.
Thank you. As everyone knows, we continue to pursue ways to save money and be more prudent with what we do, but at the same time, we're also going to give the maximum amount of clarity, transparency, and take any suggestions as far as what we can do going forward. Let's reference where we are right now. In our current budget that was just passed by the board, we're looking at approximately a $1.2 million fund balance as a finishing the end of this current fiscal year, so June of next year, a $1.2 million budget. That's what the board passed. However, that's assuming that we collect 100% of our taxes from our property, which we know Don Elrod, our tax commissioner, is very good at collecting those dollars. However, history has shown that we don't typically collect 100%. It's typically 98%. So with that said, the real number, as you would see, is approximately $750,000, but that is assuming many different things go perfectly this year. Part of that $750,000 that would be left over would assume that we meet the budget for substitutes. And as many have been informed this year, we're trying to be very judicious in the way we allow substitutes to be employed. And the fact of the matter is, last year we spent $650,000 on substitutes, and this year's budget is allowing for $262,000. So, that being said, if we did potentially have the same number of substitutes this year as we had last year, you would see a fund balance decrease of approximately $400,000, thereby leaving us with about $300,000 sitting in the bank, which is a precarious position, finding us perched on the edge of going into deficit, pending any minor calamity or major, depending on the nature. Now, all that being said, there are certain things that we can do, and we submitted to our system a survey for interest as far as if someone wanted to drive a bus. That's not to say that we want everybody to drive a bus, but if there was someone who was willing to drive a bus, that could potentially save the system and also allow our staff to make extra money. it's not for everybody. We understand that. But again, this is looking at the overall picture of where are our costs. We know next year, before we even start, that there will be teachers who get certificate upgrades. You'll have your step increases for the number of years you work, and probably most importantly, our employer cost for healthcare will go up approximately $600,000 from the get-go. So we know that there are things that we are going to be facing as headwinds that we can deal with internally, whether it's turning out lights, trying to avoid substitutes when possible. If we had someone who wanted to drive a bus, if we wanted someone who wanted to help in cleaning our building or picking up your room or whatever it is, there are certain things that we can do, because we both have children in the system and we want all of our kids to be successful. And it's not about the money, it's really about the kids. So with all of that said, if anybody has any questions about the data that you've seen, or you would like to talk to me individually, either one of us are glad to answer questions. In addition to this information we've presented, it is also on our website, our Jackson County website, under the Finance tab, and from that point you can look into anything from where are we with our staffing, what's our current line item budget. Everything is out there, so there are no secrets. We're willing to take every suggestion, and every potential cost savings measure is important.
Mr. Hitzges has worked very hard, along with everyone in the personnel department, to make sure that we're looking very carefully at every potential savings. The most important thing I want you to know, the reason for this short video clip is to be transparent and to be honest with you. It is not by any means to create a sense of fear. It is simply to give you the information. And I think the more we have information, the more likely we are to understand how we can all contribute. Truly, Jackson County is a very special place, and there are many districts across the state who are struggling much more than we are. But because of our sincere commitment to transparency and to the integrity of our district, we want to be proactive, and we want to make sure that you're aware, and we want to pull you in on the team so that we can all problem solve together. Think of ways that we can be a family, we can innovate, we can have creative solutions, and we are completely open to any suggestions that you have. We appreciate you taking the opportunity to tune in and to listen, and please know it is simply an effort to keep you informed and to make you a part of our solution, because that's what we want for Jackson County student success. Thank you very much.